crowd
Yeah.
sizes, but you gotta be pretty pleased with what's happening and what's gonna be coming up here.
Yeah, really, it's tremendous. You know, it's the first time we've been here as a coaching staff where we've had this number of sellouts. I believe
5 of the last 9.
5 of the last 9 right now are sellouts. The other ones are limited tickets. Now, we want everybody to show up, that's for sure, but never, certainly since we've been here as a coaching staff, and we've had some good teams and some great crowds and some energetic crowds. And I think that's the biggest thing you're looking for is a crowd that brings tremendous energy. But I love it. I think our players appreciate it, and we hope that we can earn the right for that to continue and to grow even more with these last remaining games that aren't sold out. But it's tremendous.
Chris, when you set up your non-conference schedule, how much of your thought process on that was building toward this where you sold out 5 of 9?
Well, I don't know that I had sellout specifically in mind, but I do think that, and I don't follow all of how ticket sales work because it's not my job, and it's not my job there are other things that are more important, and my athletic directors, made that clear, right? It's other people's job. I think in many ways, when you look at it, people are going to follow. If your team has some energy around it, whether that's in expectations or in performance, early season. Certainly, we've had some early season wins that have been maybe, I don't know if it's eye-opening, but certainly have caught the eye of maybe the casual fan. And then I think when you have some guys, like I said, Caleb, who's lost weight and kind of transformed his body, and young players, a combination of winning that brings some excitement. Now, again, we've got to do our part to continue to perform well.
To see Kyle, who was really homesick his first year,
Yeah.
now to be actually sick this year, to see him handle all that he's been through and to still be the kind of guy he is, what does that mean to you as not only a coach, but as a guy who clearly cares about Kyle?
Yeah, tremendous maturity on Kyle's part over the years. I've said openly how homesick he was, and wanted just to kind of go back home and get a job. And what a mistake that would have been for him. And that was pretty short-lived, but it was for most of his summer. He's frustrated, I think, with the fact that he's missed some games the last couple of years here, and I think this timing of this really, really frustrates him. He wants nothing more than to be out there, but it happens. So.
You were talking on your radio show about the turnovers you've had, and you said this before, when that number gets up, you just sort of look at who has the ball, maybe you need to change things around. Dwayne has the ball an awful lot, and his turnover percentage is low.
Yeah.
And you have 2 guys who rely a lot of point guard minutes, who's up over 20% turnover percentage. Do you look at letting Dwayne play the one a little more, or put the ball in his hands even more than you have because that percentage is so low?
Yeah, we do. We've looked at that. The turnovers have been fairly spread out, but we've had Caleb has had more than I'd like. Andre's had more, at least had one in a couple games than I'd like. And then obviously our point guards have had some games where they've had it a lot. So I do think it's something that we're looking at. We're trying to evaluate, but at the same time, we've also got to do a good job of getting those guys better in that particular area. And I don't think it's we're going to pull the ball out of our point guard's hands, but does it mean that we could involve Dwayne in some actions potentially more? It's possible, sure.
How much do you talk with guys about, it just seems like sometimes, and this is across the board, I suppose, somebody will put the ball on the floor and go toward the rim, but they don't really seem to have a plan for when they're going toward the rim, and they'll get themselves caught in a bad position, and then that's how turnovers happen. Like, how much do you talk with your guys just about being smart in a way and trying to think of what you're going to do before you start making your move and go toward the rim?
Yeah, I think that, it's something we try to break down in film on a regular basis. Now, part of how West Virginia plays is that way, right? We know that, but I think again, it's something we've tried to really break down in film and show guys, and then if they can't understand it, then that's when it's, hey, listen, we've got to take the ball out of their hands, which is in some ways what we did last year at the end of the season. As we went through the last part of the season, we kept it in a couple guys' hands for most of the latter part of the season.
But when you're talking about that stuff, how much of it too is not just on the guy who actually has the ball in his hands, but the guys around him, finding space to make themselves available for the pass?
Yeah, I think our spacing can improve offensively, but we've had passing turnovers through post feeds, we've had turnovers in transition, we've had sloppy ball handling turnovers, so it's not really been confined to one specific area. If it was, I think it'd be easier to fix. I think it's gonna be an ongoing process with this group.
Similar to Rob's question about non-conference being over, I'm just curious where you stand in terms of what your expectations were coming into the season. Do you feel like you guys have lived up to what you expected? Are you ahead, behind? Just where, now that you've played some decent opponents.
Yeah, sure. I think I can just speak to the non-conference portion because we're, 1-1 in Big Ten play and got the rest of the season. But the non-conference, given how we lost one non-conference game, certainly as a group you feel really good about that given our schedule. Really good. I think we should feel good about that as a group. I think our players do feel good. You understand it's a whole different animal moving into league play. I think we've performed well in the non-conference. We really did, and that's a credit to really our players. Now, is Carolina the same Carolina that they've been? No. Villanova's a good team. We performed really well against them. The Kentucky win was a really good win. Winning some of the games like a Kent State where it was tied with 10 minutes to go was good. But you try as a coach not to really assess anything, because what we're really trying to assess is what's our growth as we move along. That's really the only thing that matters for us. But we certainly feel good about our non-conference for sure.
You said earlier that for athletes, the most important thing for guys, there's nothing more important than today.
Yeah.
You've spoken at length about how you have a young team. Can a young team grasp that?
I think it's got to be stated over and over and over by myself and our leadership, and they've got to commit themselves to it, and they can't be, they've got to play with great emotion, but they cannot be too emotional. I think there's a balance there, there's a perspective that's required, and we want to be a different team here in a month, and the only way that happens is if today's really, really, really dang important. And whatever else happens, we'll figure it out, but that's got to be really important to us.
With Justin coming back from the injury, where is he as far as, you said even when he got back at the end of the season, he wasn't where he needed to be just from physically and just defensively, things like that.
Yeah.
Where is he in that progression and getting back to some of the things he could do at the end of last season that physically he couldn't do when this year started?
I think he's getting there. He's getting closer. I don't know what percentage he put himself at. I think a month ago he was saying maybe he was 65, 70%. I think he's getting closer to where he needs to get to. He's put on some weight back, but and he's practiced well, and his attitude has been really good. He's been really, really engaged. And I just think when a kid's really engaged on the bench and he's not playing, sooner or later that's going to, and he practices well, that's going to pay off.